Sorry, let me get them up here. Not too much happened at that meeting. Basically, we talked about the new location for the premier provisioning and set a public hearing for that. And then we also talked about the two site plans that the city was, there are two projects the city was working on. So if there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the April 28th meeting, which Mike Latham already made that motion.
Second.
Got
Okay, I
it.
have a motion by Mike Latham and a second by Bill Bortle to approve the April 28th, 2020 meeting minutes as submitted. Denise, can you do a roll call, please?
Mike?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Carpenter.
Yes.
Mike Latham?
Yes.
Denise, yes. Bud?
Yes.
Herb?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
And Bill Bortle.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the May 19th meeting minutes. That which was just a week ago. We opened and closed the public hearing for the new location of the Premier Provisioning Center. We had a fair amount of discussion. A lot of it had to do with the parking and whether or not the property lines and parking were accurate. Also presented at the meeting was the plan for the farmers market and the plan for the police addition parking. Do we have any comments or questions on the minutes?
Question on the farmer's market. Is the dumpster going to be out up by 81?
For the farmers market, the plan for the dumpster was that that they would have trash barrels or receptacles like they do around town. And that if there was a need for a dumpster, the city would bring the dumpster they have on wheels. But that the intent would that there would not be a dumpster sitting there full time. That it would only be as needed or after the fact type thing.
Okay, there was up in on 81 on the southeast corner. There was a square.
That's a bus stop.
There's a what?
A bus stop shelter.
Oh, okay. Looked
Which
like
is-
a garbage thing to me, but that's okay. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
on the site plan, it just kind of shows up as a concrete slab, and then on the architectural plans is where you actually see what it looks like.
Okay, I just didn't see them.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second
Is that
that.
Alvin?
Yeah, we have a motion by
Alvin and
Alvin
Butt.
and a second by Butt to approve the meeting minutes. Roll call when you're ready, Denise.
Mike Carpenter?
Yes.
Mike Latham?
Yes.
Denise, yes. Bud?
Yes.
Herb?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Bill Bortle?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment and communications, and that would be not relative. Well, actually, we don't have a public hearing, so yeah, that would be for any public comment regarding the meeting. Sarah, do you have any indication of anybody?
There were 2 written comments that I sent to Denise.
Okay.
Do you want me to read them now?
Yeah, why don't you please?
Dear Planning Commission, I have lived just down the street from the M24 and M81 corner for over 50 years. My neighbor explained to me last week that your group oversees giving approval for the new pot store. Please understand that I am not opposed to this type of business, as I have used pot many years ago. The issue is congestion when the gas station was open. Please look at the congestion and the parking for this pot store location and ask this business to locate this pot store where there is better parking and more room for their customers. I would like to give this letter to you without my name, as I am worried I may have trouble with this business if I give my honest opinion. The other letter to the Planning Commission. At your last meeting, the decision to approve the site plan and special use permits was tabled mainly because of the inadequate parking for this business. Mr. Murad stated that they need 4 parking spaces for their employees. I am asking you to spend the time to do a personal visit, as Mr. Murad is not giving you correct information on the legal parking that belongs to this Farm Bureau building. Furthermore, a lease was recently signed between Consumers Energy and Farm Bureau. The site plan has 2 parking spaces located in front of a garage with an overhead door that Consumer Energy uses and must always have access to. Secondly, there are 3 parking spaces on the site plan in front of the Consumers Energy building that they currently lease with the building. Lastly, the 9 parking spaces that are diagonal to the Speedway building are questionable at best. This Farm Bureau building was built as a travel agency, then used as an insurance agency with minimal customers at any one time. I realize that the Premier Provisioning Center is proposing this to be a medical marijuana dispensary, but we all know that in the near future, the ordinance can be changed, and this would now be a recreational marijuana dispensary and would cause a great deal more traffic to this corner. It was stated at the last Zoom meeting that if any cars were to park close to or on M81, they would address, but why cause a constant issue when there is not enough parking for this business? I am asking for this Planning Commission to do a site visit before taking this proposal at its word, and you will see this is a bad location for this business. Mr. Murad stated they needed 4 parking places for his employees, so this leaves 2 parking spaces for his customers and 1 for van accessible handicap parking. One of your board members has actual experience with this parking issue on this property and sounds like he may agree. Please do not approve this site plan and special use permit until you have done the homework necessary to see it does not work! Exclamation point.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming that letter is also not signed.
Yes, it appears to be written by the same person that wrote one of the other was from the last meeting.
Okay. All right. Any other public comment? Yes, Don?
I went down there and checked it out. The only problem is if we don't allow him to be there because of parking, then we can't allow any business in there because of parking. Correct?
Well, we have a ordinance that addresses parking, and they're based on employees and or square footage, depending, and that varies on the use. In this case, it's based on square footage. But those calculations have been updated, and then we can speak about that when we get to the site plan.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if something was built and required 3 parking spaces, just because the next person that wanted in needs, if they needed 20, that doesn't mean that that there's grandfathering or anything like that. Because every use has a different parking demand. So
Right.
Your statement could be true, or, it could just be a matter of, a business with less parking requirements. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like if you filled that up completely with office, that would require a tremendous amount of parking, which you wouldn't be able
Correct.
to do.
But I think he said what, 4 employees?
Yeah.
So that's pretty small, you know,
So, okay.
his building.
Any other comments? Thanks for your comment, Don. All right, hearing none or seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business in the agenda. So first up to bat is we have the site plan for the Premier Provisioning Center located at 1023 East Carroll Road. And then if we can come to some sort of approval of the site plan, then we can move on to the special use. So let's do the site plan first. So I think everyone got in email to them a new plan that was put together and sent out, I believe, on Thursday. And that plan, which I have shown on the screen, that plan shows that there indeed is some question on the property line, and what the ownership is. So what this plan now shows in this red line is what this came right off the county GIS system. So this is what the county has on record for the property. I believe that the realtor is still trying to figure out if there's some other agreement or something for this other drive area. But for tonight, what we have in front of us, the site plan shows that there is no ownership of that area. And so the parking layout has been changed accordingly. This plan was emailed to me Thursday, like everybody else. I took a look at it and talked with the applicant and Mr. Kitchen, and some revisions to the parking calculations and to the parking spaces was made. But I didn't realize until just a little bit ago that plan didn't get pushed out to you guys. So I'm going to call it up on the screen. It's the exact same site plan, but the parking spaces are shown a little bit different, and the parking calculations have been corrected. So based on their building layout, and I'm jumping right to the parking since that seems to be the hot topic. We'll come back to the other handful of items. But they have provided a parking plan with parking calculations. It shows how the building is being used. Our ordinance requires that they provide one parking space for every 150 feet of usable space, which is shown in red. And that's the required parking spaces for what is now, or what used to be, the insurance building. The consumer's office is considered office. So it's one space per 200 square feet. And so with a usable space of 600, that would be 3 parking spaces. So let's see. So that math works out to 16 total spaces, 3 for consumers and 13 for the for some reason that doesn't seem right. I thought it was 18. hang on, let me do the math here. Yeah, 13.
Have you gone down there, Mike, and walked through there at all?
Yeah, Bill, I drive by it all the time. I've looked at it on Google Earth. I drove through it the other day. I've measured between the buildings. One of the things that changed between the plan that you have and the plan that was sent, that was revised, that hasn't hit you guys, is that the parking spaces were kind of crunched up too much. So these parking spaces that are shown on here, like 1 through 12, if you look on the aerial, they're kind of there in paint still right now. Particularly these ones in here, and then there's a couple in front of these other buildings. So what they've done is they've taken away the angled parking in here and added 3 spots along here and 3 spots along here. And they're proposing a total of 18 spaces, which was down from, I don't remember what the other one was, 22 or something like that. So one of the questions that was, that's a moot point, but one of the questions that was asked before is whether there was room for angle parking in here. And according to our ordinance, there is enough room, for angle parking in a one-way drive. But again, that's kind of a moot point now.
How
So
many parking spots do they need for the square footage that they've got?
It looks like they needed 13 for the provisioning center and 3 for the consumers building. And I believe what was mentioned, and we can confirm this, but I believe what was mentioned at the last meeting was that they had three employees. So that seems like a pretty good fit. And if those employees can or can't park in front of their garage, I mean, it's just the employees coming and going. So I'm not too worried about that. Any other questions about the parking?
Mike, you don't think that we need to know whether or not there's any restriction on them parking in front of the garage?
Let's see here. Well, let me look at it. Restriction, like as far as how consumers uses it, you mean?
Yes, I don't know who owns it, but if there's a rental restriction that says you can't park there, I don't know whether, who's the owner of this garage?
I believe it's all owned by the same owner, so it would be the
Consumers?
it would be the new owners of the provisioning center, and the property is leased to consumers.
They just signed a lease here just recently too, did they not? In the last month or less.
Here, I'm gonna pull the aerial over, which unfortunately doesn't show the garage.
So do they have to have plus 4 parking spots of what's required for the square footage for their employees, or do they just have to have a total number of parking places for the square footage that they are housing?
In commercial and office use, the employees don't directly factor in. It goes by square footage, according to our
So
ordinance.
no matter what, they have more than enough accommodating parking spaces
Right.
for the square footage that they have.
Right.
So even if they had 10 employees and only had 2 parking spots for customers, that has no basis on what they're asking for, and they're not violating our zoning.
Well, and the unfortunate thing is that we have no history of what a provisioning center does or doesn't take, what it requires. So
Right.
the best we can go by is commercial, like retail. So this
But
would
they're
be,
still within zoning, even on the commercial, for the amount of spaces they have for the square footage they have.
right. I mean, when I did the calcs, I had 14 and 3 for 17. So, you know, maybe I had too much usable in there. I didn't redo the calcs, but either way, they either meet or have one or two spots to you know, extra, so to speak.
Okay.
And you can see on the aerial these spots that used to be striped here, you know, over the years. So, you know, parking in front of this building is something they've always done. The garage kind of sets in here. The garage does set forward a little bit, but there's plenty of room in here with cars only parking parallel here. So I suppose if they did lose a couple of spots in front of the garage, you know, I mean, that's a good point, Mike. I'm not aware of any restrictions on that. And I suppose that might be something we could, you know, do a conditional approval on just to confirm that there isn't anything that would
With the
prohibit
property for more
us
parking
counting
spots,
on.
even if there's conditions on the parking in front of that garage, they're still within the zoning ordinances.
Right.
They're still meeting their criteria of what they have to have for that lot, for that size, for the consumable space that they're going to house for their business. I still don't understand how we could use any of the parking against them when they're within zoning. I'm confused here how we could say we want to know if they have conditional to, because I mean, even if they rent that space and they park in front of it and his employees have to park on the north end of the lot, I don't see where we could hold it against them.
The only thing, and I doubt it, Alvin, but the only thing that you know, might come into play, and I very much doubt it, but maybe if they had something in the lease saying they needed 5 spaces, more than what the zoning said they needed, would be the only thing that I could see.
Right.
I know it's a problem.
Herb, did you have a comment?
I say, I don't see there's a problem. It looks like to me that they meet the requirements.
Okay. Yeah, based on what we have to go by, which is our ordinance and commercial or retail requirements, which is the best fit in our ordinance. We don't have a specific parking for, you know, provisioning of marijuana. So, nor do we have, you know, one specifically for a dollar store versus, you know, a coffee shop or well, not a coffee shop, but like a meat market or whatever. I mean, they're all kind of lumped in as a commercial retail based on square footage.
And the only reason that I was really concerned is I remember being in and out of there several times. And when there's more than just, I'd say, 4 or 5 cars in there, it was a problem. Now, I don't know, and I have not figured out exactly how this new parking's going to be to really work properly, but that's a reason that I had a concern. I just don't think there was enough room down there to get more than, like I said, a half a dozen cars, because I ended up parking across the street, I know, more than once, and there was not more than 4 or 5 cars in there.
Okay.
I just hope they've done their calculations properly, that's all.
Well, I reviewed the calculations based on our ordinance. And like I said, I had 14 and 3. And I know, you know, so maybe when they did their final revision, the square footage come down a little bit, but even at 14 and 3, they still have what they need. So, so the other thing, if there's no other parking questions or comments, I'm going to move on to the other revisions. Shoot, I had those right handy too. Now where'd they go?
We got the generator, the
Oh.
cameras,
Yep.
and
So-
marking of the parking lot.
So the backup generator, if needed, will be shown, is shown to be in the corner of this building. It's proposed that it was discussed that it would be an LP generator. And then, of course, the site plan shows there's a fence that'll be put in along here that will screen it. And then there's also a row of trees. The cameras were revised to show quite a few more cameras, quite a few, actually. I think they've added 3 or 4 at least. There used to be, I think, 1 here and maybe 1 on each end wall. So there's a fair amount of cameras that were added. We had asked that they cover the parking areas, which would be here. The previous parallel parking or angled parking would have been down in here. And then these 2 cameras will look back to the south. What else was there? The fence was added along an offset from the property line. I believe our ordinance requires it to be 3 feet off. It looks like it's shown closer to 8, perhaps. That fence will require a zoning permit for the fence. What was the other thing that somebody mentioned?
Striping the parking lot.
Oh, striping the parking lot.
Putting in an arrow, a one-way arrow, and right turn only sign up.
Okay. And MDOT is aware of this project, and they are requiring a use, what they call a use permit. Basically, they want to make sure that the driveways will handle the traffic that this use will generate. So to some degree, we have a big brother looking over our shoulder on the ingress and egress of this site, since it's all 100% off of MDOT facilities. So I believe they have addressed everything that we discussed.
According to my notes, it looks like it.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll support it.
Who was
Okay,
that?
I have a motion by Charity and a support by Alvin, I believe,
Yep. Yep, sir.
to approve the site plan. The only thing is that we should throw on a contingency that it's subject to MDOT's approval.
So make it.
Is that okay with you, Alvin?
Yep.
With your second?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have an amended motion and amended second to approve the site plan as submitted. Oops, I got a question.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that that doesn't necessarily need to be part of the motion, because the ordinance requires that they get all the proper permits from everyone else anyways, or else
Oh,
okay, or else the permit is null and void.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, I think since we already have the motion and since that was a big area of concern, maybe it'd be better if it was in the motion. But thanks for pointing that out. Anybody else have any discussion before we call the motion? Or oops.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Mike Carpenter,
yes.
Mike Latham,
Yes.
Denise, yes. Bud,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Bill?
Everyone else is yes. I'll go along with that.
Okay.
Okay, motion carries. So now that the site plan is in order and I apologize, everyone, that I didn't make sure this got sent to the city. But I will submit this site plan out to everybody and get it to Sarah so she has the one of record. And then we'll go from there. But like I said, the only thing that was different was the layout of the parking spaces in the calculations.
Mike, who will hold their feet to the fire to make sure they put all those parking spaces in there correctly?
I suppose that if they do not follow their approved site plan, that would violate their special use permit, and that could affect their renewal. And since this does get renewal yearly, whereas other businesses, once they leave us, a lot of times we don't ever see them again. So I would think at a minimum, we would catch up with them after a year's time. But since I don't know, it's not like it's a new build where we'd be involved with an occupancy or anything like that. But I don't know, Matt, do you have anything to offer on that?
Yeah, so if the planning commission approves this, it goes to council, they approve it. What they're actually approving is a conditional permit. So if they don't do the things that they need to do, which is get the site plan put in properly, get approvals from the state, then we don't approve them permanently. They wouldn't get their actual permit from us.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? So the next action item for the provisioning center would be to act on the special use request. We talked about it to some degree over the last two meetings. Before we get into it too deep, there are a few conditions that need to be put on it, or with the approvals, I should say, is unless the manager can help me out, but I didn't remember seeing anything from the fire chief or the police chief in the way of approvals. So we would be, we're making recommendation to city council anyway, so we could just make that, part of our recommendation to council, and then let council and staff address that from there. I don't remember, did we have anything that we were hung up with other than the parking / site plan at the last meeting?
No.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
And Mike, it looks like both Ray and Shane have their hands up.
Okay. Ray, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. As far as the police recommendation, we got the police recommendation on the first application. As far as the fire marshal, then it's another building, so I'm pretty sure he's going to have to look at the plans. But when Shane did the drawing on the plans, like he's done everything that to cover that. That's,
oh, hey, I'm in a meeting.
That's as far as the consumer energy lease, just to let you guys know, my company is going to be owning that building. And when I signed that purchase agreement, there was no lease whatsoever with consumer energy. It's a month-to-month lease.
Yeah, you did mention that the first meeting, but thanks for reminding us of that.
Absolutely.
I believe Ray is right. I believe the fire or the police review is more of a background check on the players, and the players haven't changed. Whereas the fire chief's review would be a structure review, which the structure has changed.
Correct. And also another thing to mention, as far as anything that we put in the plan, when these plans get submitted, it's the same plans that you guys get. It goes to the MRA, okay, which is the state police that goes over all the plans to make sure that whatever that was promised the city is what's on these papers. And then also like on my state license renewal, just like how Matt mentioned, I have to get a city approval every year before I can get my state license. So if there is no city approval, there is no state approval.
Okay. Thank you. Shane, did you have something to offer with the special use?
Yes, we need a commercial zoning administrator. This is something that needs to be addressed, and then the parking spots wouldn't be worried. There could be somebody that goes, looks at them, etc. Dumpster enclosures, all of it. We need a commercial zoning administrator. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Shane. Okay, back to the table, so to speak, or back to the planning commission. Any other comments or questions before we take action on this? What I probably should do, and I didn't do this last meeting, on the screen is the special condition uses that we went through several months ago when we blasted through the bunch of special uses from before. This is part of our ordinance. I believe that when we were going through this, I'm sorry now, I thought it was only one page, but I see I got the whole thing here now. Let me find the right page here. There were a handful of requirements that we needed to look at. And why can't I find them now? I think I'm looking at the wrong file. Doggone it. Oh, here it is, right here. So it was the section C. You remember section C, and we had 1 through 6, and we were hung up on I don't know, at the previous location we were hung up on the you know, the fact that it was next to the daycare and whatnot. So we can read. You can take a minute and look down through these. 1 through 6 is what we're, you know, the infrastructure, like number 4, for example, utilities and the infrastructure. We've talked about the parking. Talked about the parking. We talked about the fact that MDOT is going to control the ingress and egress onto either M81 or M24. It conforms to the regulations. So number 2, as before, is probably the, you know, the only sticky point on any of these applications, because it's somewhat subjective. So our 2 options tonight would be to, well, I suppose 3 would, 1 be a table it, but I haven't heard anything that would cause us to do that, but we need to make a recommendation to the council to either approve it or to deny it. That would be our 2 options. With the, if we do an approval, it would be contingent upon police and fire, although it sounds like the police is probably a moot point.
If nobody's going to do it, I'll make a motion to Move to send it to the council for approval of special use.
Okay. With the contingencies?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Herb made a motion to make recommendation to council to approve the special use permit with the contingency that the fire reviews it and that the police is still okay with it. And Bud second that motion. Denise, when you're ready, please do a roll call.
Did you say that the police accept it, or you said fire department review it, but the police?
Just to make
accept it?
sure they're still okay with it. So if the players haven't changed, then it should be a moot point. But
Okay,
I don't want to make that
If it's
decision
still
for the
approved.
police.
okay. Roll call. Mike Carpenter,
Yes.
Mike Latham,
Yes.
Denise, yes. Bud,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Elvin,
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Okay, motion
you.
carries. Okay, thanks, everyone. Ray, I believe this will go to the next council meeting in a week. This coming Monday, right, Matt? Okay. And then I think it takes 2 meetings to take action on that, or just one?
I think they can, I guess Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they can approve it that night.
Yes, just one.
Just one? Okay, good. All right. Next on the agenda would be the Robert Martin, the facility. So late last week, I was working with the Premier folks on their site plan and had a site plan emailed to me, a new site plan emailed to me for the South Colling Road location, which I did not have an opportunity to look at in advance of the meeting, or until just before the meeting, I should say. So on my screen now is a new site plan, which I'm a little confused by, so we'll ask for clarification. But previously, the Sampson Industries had requested a grow facility and a what's the right word here? A grow facility and a processing facility. So the site plan that I received, which again, I didn't realize it didn't get sent to the city till today, but it only appears to include a grow facility. So I'm not sure if something has changed with that or not. Shane, if you're still there, can you? And I'm not sure if anybody else is here from Sampson, but can someone from Sampson let us know if they're still looking for a grow and a processing, or is it just grow now?
I can verify that by tomorrow morning or something. I can get right a hold of Rob. This was the floor plan that they had designed and gave to me. I critiqued it and made it, as much up to code as what I could see going on. There still might be some egress issues with our center rooms that we're conferring on with codes. There's been some code changes in the medical marijuana in the grow facilities for our egress to our doors, but I do not have that verified. I was told that the egress distance, travel of distance to an egress in a grow facility is 50 feet. But I do not know what it is with the sprinkler system, and this building does have a sprinkler system. So
Okay.
we are in the design stages. I will verify the processing center. We still have the front office, but they didn't tell me that's what it was going to be. So we'll have it updated.
Okay. For those of you that can see my screen, there was a phase 2 drawing provided in their grow site plan. And in the phase 2 drawing showed all grow facility, which is the latest site plan that was submitted to me directly shows. But the actual application that we received showed an area, basically I think it's the north half. The north half of the building was going to be grow. The south half was going to be vacant, except for an area, maybe, I don't know, 70 by 70, that was going to be right in here. That was going to be a processing area. So we'll have to get some of that confirmed. This site plan does address some of the issues that were discussed when we discussed this last, and that is highlighted here for those of you that can see on the screen. This came from Sarah, can you help me out? These minutes that you forwarded, that came from the March meeting?
I want to say that was in February.
Or the February meeting. We didn't have a March meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the February meeting. So this page and highlighted was submitted to, I'm not sure who, somebody at the Sampson folks, but I'll read it off for those that can't see it. And it says, this is right out of our minutes. Items need to be addressed. Require a statement indicating the intended use of property, a copy of the lease, either a letter from the property owner acknowledging they are aware of the intended use of the property, or their signature on the special use application. City should be named as insured on the second insured on the insurance policy. Several items missing in the application: employee information, organizational chart, capital investment, statement of jobs, financial. And then the last line was a better site plan, which should include clarification of non-employee access. And that the clarification of non-employee access, that had to do with the processing center and how people were going to get through the grow facility to the processing center. Parking calculations, which we now have, barrier free, which we now have, generator and dumpster screening. So there was a fair amount of paperwork or that type of information missing off the application, which I still have all of those notes when I did the initial review on that way back when. Matt, I can share that with you so you can see what my notes said on the review of the application. But there's above and beyond the site plan, there was a fair amount of other missing information. So I'm encouraged that, at least it looks like they're working on it. If there's anyone from Sampson that would like to say anything further, now is your opportunity. I don't hear or see anything further. Sarah, do we need to, I know we asked this last time, do we need to table this again, or just by not taking action, does it stay on the table?
By not taking action, it will stay tabled.
Just stay on the table.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
On this app?
Yes.
How long isn't there only a certain number of those applications that the city accepted?
Yes.
Isn't there a limit amount that they put in the zoning for that?
Yeah, so basically it was 2 applications for each of the 4, I think, types of.
So how long do they get to tie up this before the city says we're going to take another applicant?
So part of the April meeting minutes, part of what I think that was the meeting I don't believe you attended, correct?
I did not. I'm sorry.
weren't on board yet, or yeah, because we showed Don Hall as being absent.
Mhm.
Part of the discussion at that meeting, I think it was that meeting.
Yes.
I just can't seem to find it. We asked the manager to reach out to the applicant for that very reason. Just to find out what's going on, and that, recognizing that they need to make progress, keep making progress moving forward. Otherwise, we'll have to, right here, it says table both Martin actions pending a certified letter with a couple of weeks to respond. So I would say they have responded at this point. Took them a little longer than 2 weeks, but so I don't have a good answer for that. I know our ordinance has a certain number of days listed in there. I'm not 100% sure how those days apply when we've tabled something.
Well, I see that they responded to us, but they just didn't really address any of the concerns in a whole. They kind of looks like they tried to take some of their, they took the provisioning, or not the provisioning, but the processing portion of it off instead of addressing some of the issues they have in their application.
Right.
It just seems odd to me. Yeah, they responded to you, but they didn't really address the issue. They didn't come forward with addressing what was going on in the applicant. It doesn't seem like,
right,
business-wise, it's going to be a good fit for the city if they're going to drag their feet like this right out of the gate.
Yeah, and I would say that the confusion on the processing is likely because, Mr. Kitchen drew what they gave him, and he's new to he's new to their
right
process. So I'll let them sort that out. But if we want to give them, if we want to set a date, I'm all for that.
No, I just had I just wondered if there was something in there. It's not that I want to set a date. I didn't know if there was, a time limit set by the city to say, hey, you're going to move forward and we're going to follow these guidelines. If not, we're going to move to another candidate. That's what I was just curious if there was a timeline.
In our marijuana ordinance, there is, from the time that we issue, and I forget the wording, I apologize, but basically from the time that we receive the information, they have, or once we review the information, which we're still in that process, but they have so many days to respond. And like I said, and I don't remember how many days it was, 60 days or something, but I don't know exactly how that applies. Does that mean they have 60 days once we approve it? Does that mean they have 60 days? I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that again and think about it some more. So.
Thank you, Mike.
But yeah, that's a valid point. That was something that we picked up on back in April, that, and with everything that was going on in March and April too, I think we wanted to be as considerate as we could be, but at the same time, it's time to move forward. So,
Mike, we could put a time on there if we wish, a time limit if we wish to.
Mr. Manager, do you have any input on that?
Well, the two timeframes in the ordinance are just popping into my head. We, the city, and the planning commission have 21 days to push that forward once they apply. And then I think it's 60 days, they have to comply with the rest of the process outside of the city. So once it's approved by the city council, then that second time clock starts. The interim period, I guess, is kind of up to us in terms of how long you want to give them to get everything together. Technically, they're supposed to have everything in the application finished before they turn it in, or we shouldn't have accepted it.
Well, that's a valid point, because that 21 days means that we have 21 days to determine whether the application is acceptable to the city, which we've done that a long time ago. So that those 21 days have, they're not ticking anymore. And then the 60 days was the other one I remember. Those don't start to tick until we approve it. So we're in this flux period. Is that?
And those can be extended as long as they're making progress.
Yeah.
But that's a post city time frame where they're getting with the state to actually start construction and stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I know with Mr. Kitchen on the line, he'll convey the message, and hopefully we'll see something here for our next meeting. So
He did just submit a note to everybody saying that they are doing a processing center. Then he'll have prints updated tomorrow.
okay. Shane, was
Cost
that
us-
Mike? Did you have something?
Well, does it cost us anything if they take an extra 30 days? Does that really bother us?
No. My only concern was just that it didn't drag out. I mean, I don't know what appropriate time frame is, but we hadn't heard from them in quite a while. That was my biggest concern, because if for some reason their plan stalled out or whatever, we kind of wanted to hear that to open up though for somebody else to have an opportunity to do a grow permit. That would be the only reasoning for that, I suppose. And right now we have nobody in the hopper that we're aware of. So just want to make sure it doesn't turn into an issue, I think, more than anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I find
any
it
other-
disconcerting. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Denise.
I find it disconcerting that they're not making any effort to attend the meetings.
I am doing it for them.
Okay.
Okay.
So Shane is now, it sounds like Mr. Kitchen is now a representative, or at least for tonight. So that helps. Moving on to new business. I don't see that we have any new business. I'm not aware of any other business. Mr. Manager, do you have anything you'd like to enlighten us with?
I don't have anything additional at this time.
Okay. Were there any other council members? Doesn't look like. Looks like Don's off now. Any other public comment? Sarah, do we have anybody else?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to,
I did. I just thought of something.
okay.
Sorry. I do remember council asking about the lot restrictions for building. I don't know if the commission wants to go down the road of researching that or figuring out how to make something work so that redevelopment is possible on homes that are, for instance, burned down or whatever the case is based on lot square footage and things like that.
Well, in the past, when we were asked to look at something, or when we recognized we need to look at something, it's been kind of handled in one of three ways. In some cases, it was a planning commissioner's desire to do the research, and that research was done, it was brought to the table, and then we kind of moved it forward. In some cases, city staff, our zoning administrator or whomever did that research, brought it to the table, and we move forward. And then sometimes we may have involved a planner or an attorney, depending on, like for marijuana, for example, was an attorney. And in some cases, we went right to a planner and asked for help. So
Like, I'll do the research on the non-conforming lots that you're talking about, and then at the next meeting, if you guys could put it on the agenda, and we can discuss it then.
okay.
I'll do a little research on it a little bit, and then we can discuss it, and then we can move forward, and however you guys decide that we want to move forward on it.
Do
From
you
there,
want
if
to do
that's
that
okay.
under communications before we actually add it to the agenda? Probably should.
Yeah, we could do it that way.
Okay. So at our
And then I'll
next,
just do some research on it, and then I'll make sure that I have some information for you where the board wants to go with it too.
okay.
so we're
Oh.
not wasting any time.
Another thing, Mr. Manager, that I just thought of, and this just came up when I was working through the Premier. On our website, on the Carroll's website, we still have access to the non-codified zoning ordinance. I'd have to show you on the website, but if you go under ordinances, you get to the codified version. But if you skip over that and go down a couple of notches on our website, there's actually a link that takes us specifically to a zoning ordinance. Unfortunately, it's a non-codified version. 98% of the ordinance is still the same, but we really need to try to get that non-codified ordinance off of our website so people aren't grabbing the wrong one. One of the things that you may or may not have noticed on the site plan that we got from Premier Provisioning actually had a page of the zoning ordinance popped right onto the site plan. Unfortunately, which is shown here from the codified version, on the drawings that you guys have, it was taken from the non-codified version. So he, it caused him extra work to, fortunately it said the same, but it, caused him extra work to change that out. So I'm not.
Mike, I'll send an email now to get it removed.
Okay, I'm not sure how all that works, but anybody else?
I move we adjourn.
Second? Bill, you
Who was
second?
that?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go to leave the meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.